The night my husband walked out of our home, he didn't even look back. Just days earlier, we had been a happy couple, or at least I thought we were. But everything changed when he won the lottery. $10 million, enough to turn an ordinary life into something extraordinary, enough to reveal who a person really is. I still remember the way his eyes sparkled when he checked the numbers, the way his hands trembled. For a brief moment, I believed our dreams had finally come true. But I was wrong. At first, he promised me the world. We'll travel, buy a new house, live the life we always wanted, he said. But the excitement faded fast, replaced by distance, coldness. He started staying out late, dressing differently, whispering on the phone. And then, one evening, he sat me down, not with love in his eyes, but with something else, something cruel. He told me he had fallen for someone else, someone younger, someone who, in his words, understood his new lifestyle. Just like that, he left. No apology, no remorse. He walked away, leaving me behind like a forgotten chapter in his life. For a while I was lost, drowning in betrayal and heartbreak, but fate has a way of turning tables. He thought he had won the jackpot, but he had no idea what was coming. Money can buy luxury, but it can't buy loyalty. And the woman he left me for? She had her own plans. Plans he never saw coming. The same wealth that made him feel invincible was about to become the reason he lost everything. Because karma never forgets. And in his case, it was just getting started. In the beginning, I struggled to understand how someone I had loved for years could change so quickly. It felt like the man I married had disappeared the moment he became rich. One day we were dreaming about the future together, and the next he was gone, living a life I was no longer a part of. I told myself he would regret it, that he would see how shallow his new world was. But those thoughts did little to ease the pain. While he was out celebrating his new fortune, I was left to pick up the pieces of a life that no longer made sense. I heard bits and pieces about him from mutual friends. He had bought a massive house in a gated community, thrown lavish parties, and was spending money as if it would never run out. And then there was her, the woman he left me for. She was younger, beautiful, and knew exactly how to make him feel important. From the outside, they looked like the perfect couple, always traveling, always smiling in pictures. But I knew better. I knew my husband wasn't as smart as he thought he was. He had always been impulsive, always trusted the wrong people, and something told me that this time, he had no idea what he had walked into. The first real sign of trouble came sooner than I expected. A friend mentioned in passing that my husband had been seen arguing with his new girlfriend at a high-end restaurant. It was bad, she said. She stormed out, and he just sat there, looking like he had been punched in the gut. I pretended not to care, but deep down I knew this was only the beginning. I told myself I had moved on, but deep down I couldn't help wondering what was really going on behind the perfect life my husband had built. The cracks were starting to show, and I knew from experience that once things started falling apart, they never stopped. I wasn't the only one who noticed either. His friends, well, the ones who had been around before the money, were slowly distancing themselves. It wasn't just the arguments with his new girlfriend. There were whispers about reckless spending, bad investments, and a lifestyle that was spinning out of control. He thought he was unstoppable, but money had made him blind. I wasn't the only one watching. His new girlfriend, the woman who had stolen his heart, was not as devoted as she appeared. She had played her role well, making him feel like the king of the world, but now I could see it. She was growing tired of him. The expensive gifts, the fancy dinners, the luxurious vacations, they had all served a purpose. And now that she had everything she wanted, she didn't need him the same way anymore. He had left me, convinced he was trading up, but he never once stopped to wonder if she had chosen him for love or for something else entirely. Then came the rumors, a secret bank account, a mysterious man she had been seen with. My husband may have been too blinded by love or pride to see it, but I knew exactly what was happening. I had been tossed aside, but now he was the one being played. And the best part, he had no idea. Karma was working faster than I had ever imagined, and all I had to do was wait. Everything was falling apart faster than even I had expected. My husband had spent months living in a dream, throwing money around as if it would last forever. But now reality was catching up. The late-night fights with his girlfriend were becoming more frequent, his once glamorous lifestyle losing its shine. I heard from a mutual friend that he had started drinking more, showing up alone to places where he used to walk in confidently with her on his arm. And then the rumors became something more. One evening, I received a call from someone who still worked at his old company. "You won't believe this," she said. "He's broke." I almost didn't believe it. How could someone burn through $10 million so fast? But then again, knowing him, I wasn't surprised. The cars, the house, the constant spending, it had all caught up with him. Worse, his girlfriend wasn't sticking around to help him through it. She had been planning her exit long before he even realized what was happening. The secret bank account wasn't just a rumor, it was real. And the mysterious man? He wasn't just a friend. She had been siphoning money away for months, making sure she had enough to leave when the time was right. Now, with nothing left to take, she was gone. No explanation, no goodbye. Just like that, the woman he left me for had abandoned him, the same way he had abandoned me. But karma wasn't done with him yet. Losing her was only the beginning. His lavish house, he couldn't afford the payments. His so-called friends, nowhere to be found. And just when he thought things couldn't get any worse, something happened that he never saw coming. He had lost everything, his money, his new love, and the life he thought would last forever. But karma wasn't finished yet. Just when he thought things couldn't possibly get worse, reality hit him even harder. His bank accounts were empty, his mansion was on the verge of foreclosure, and debt collectors were circling like vultures. He had spent his fortune believing it would never run out, but now, with nothing left, he was learning the cruel lesson of regret. Desperate, he tried reaching out to old friends, the ones he had ignored when his world was full of luxury. But they had moved on, uninterested in the man who had once bragged about how much better his life had become without them. The doors he had once walked through so confidently were now closed. And then, in what must have been the lowest moment of his life, he did something I never thought he would. He called me. The voice that had once been so cold, so dismissive, now sounded unsteady, uncertain. He tried to be casual at first, asking how I had been, as if he hadn't shattered my world. But I could hear it in his tone, the hesitation, the underlying desperation. And then after a long pause, he finally said it. "I made a mistake." Hearing those words should have given me satisfaction. After everything he had done, after the way he had discarded me without a second thought, this should have been my moment of victory. But instead, I felt something else, something unexpected. Because as much as I had waited for karma to do its work, I never imagined this moment would come, and I had no idea what I was going to do next. I let the silence stretch between us, knowing he was waiting for me to say something, anything. But what could I say to the man who had thrown me away like I never mattered? The man who had once looked at me with love, but had no problem replacing me when he thought he had found something better? Still, despite everything, I could hear the pain in his voice. He wasn't calling out of love. He was calling because he had no one left. "I don't know what to do," he finally admitted. "I lost everything." There it was, the moment I had imagined so many times. I could have laughed, reminded him how easily he had walked away, told him he was finally getting what he deserved. But instead, I just listened. He told me how his new life had crumbled, how the woman he left me for had drained him of everything and disappeared. His house was gone, his accounts were empty, and for the first time in his life, he had nothing. He even admitted that he had been too proud to see the truth, that she had never loved him, only his money. Then came the part that surprised me. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said, "but if I could go back, I would have done everything differently." It was the apology I had once longed for, but it came too late. I had already rebuilt my life. I was stronger, happier, and I no longer needed him. So I took a deep breath and gave him the only answer he truly deserved. "I'm sorry," I said, "but I moved on, just like you did." And with that, I hung up, knowing that this time, it was truly over. As I set down the phone, I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. It was over. The years of wondering, of questioning if he'd ever come to his senses, had finally come to an end. I didn't need his apology. and I didn't need him in my life anymore. It was a chapter I had long since closed, and now it was sealed for good. The truth was, I had learned a lot from the whole experience. People don't change unless they want to, and sometimes we have to let them go in order to find our own happiness. In the weeks that followed, my life only got better. I threw myself into my work, deepened relationships with friends and family, and most importantly, I focused on myself. I rediscovered the joy in simple things, the quiet mornings, the laughter of friends, the satisfaction of building a life on my own terms. I learned that the love I thought I needed from him was something I could give to myself. As for him, I never heard from him again. It seemed that after our last conversation, he truly had faded into the past. His new world, once so full of promise, had crumbled, and there was nothing left for me to do but watch from a distance as he faced the consequences of his own choices. Karma had done its job, but it had taught me a bigger lesson. I had spent so much time waiting for him to realize his mistake, but in the end, it wasn't about him at all. It was about me. It was about learning to stand tall, to trust my own strength, and to understand that sometimes the greatest revenge is simply living a life that's better without the people who try to tear you down.